we did so because the private charitable systems, the private insurance systems to care for people when they were old and when they were sick were failing in a gross way to meet the needs of the American people. And those programs, which are government programs, have at least had the virtue of extending the access to health care and extending income security when you're old to a very, very large part of the population that never had it before. And I would argue, too, that in addition to the regulatory functions and the judicial functions that we certainly agree on, that there is in a rich society which can afford to take care of people who fall out of the market process, who aren't lucky or gifted or fortunate in their economic lives, to take care of those people when they are old and when they're sick.
But what about the extent to which the same society that you described, the same logic that you described, makes them poor? What about the minimum wage, which prevents many people from getting employment? What about the rent controls, which destroy housing in the cities? And you're trying to look at...
I'm beginning to switch over. You can point to the minimum wage, which everybody agrees increases unemployment among the poor, especially. But what about the environment? I mean, if you have if you have a simple environmental law, I mean, the reason the West is cleaner than the East, the Eastern Bloc, is the main reason is we're richer. We can afford to do it.
The problem, so far as the environment is concerned, the real function of the government is to define the property rights. And it is quite clear that if I force you to take bad water for good water, well, then I ought to pay you. I'm not quarreling with that. But if you look at the actual environmental measures that government takes, they often have harmful effects and not positive effects. The new clean air bill that has just been passed, for example, is going to cost an enormous amount of money. But let's look at what the government actually does. In the United States today, the federal government spends an amount of money which is 25% of the national income. State and local governments spend an additional 17% of the national income. That's 42% altogether. Now, some of that is doing good, of course. It would be very hard to spend that amount of money. But an enormous amount of that is simply taking money from some and giving it to others, and very often taking it from poor and giving it to well-to-do.